Can you describe what it is you did with Dee Dee? I mean, as a rhythm section. I mean, what kind of what made that work on such a kind of a seemingly simple kind of a musical level?
Well, Dee Dee used to come see my band Dust in the Village, along with Johnny and Joey. If you see the first album cover of my band Dust in the back, you'll see the leather jacket and the jeans, and they were very impressed by that cover. So if you took me and put it on the first Ramones album cover, it'll fit. It would have fit right in. Anyway, getting to the point, Dee Dee and I became very close friends. So I knew him before I joined the Ramones. So sometimes we would jam together at the Dolls Loft in New York City. We would jam. Me and Johnny Thunders and Jerry Nolan would be there, and that's how I got to know Dee Dee. And what is the basis of our rhythm? It's downstroke eighth notes. Dee Dee would play down, just down, not up and down, which would create the wall of sound, and I would do that on my hi-hat, the same thing as he did, and apply that to the floor tom and the ride cymbals. So instead of playing quarter notes, you have eighth notes, which really what it does, it fills the gaps of the spaces that you would normally play when you're playing quarter notes. So that's basically what we did, and he was able to jump around too and play like that. He was the greatest,
I mean, had you seen them perform around a lot? I mean, did you really?
Well, yeah, we all hung out at CBGB's, and Richard Hell and Tom Verlaine were the first people to discover the place. Then Patti Smith, then the Ramones, and Blondie, then Talking Heads, and people like that. But yeah, I'd see them play, and they were in their infancy, a little sloppy, but then they got better and better and better. And then when it was time for me to join the band after Tommy left the group to produce, they were starting to get real tight. So that's how I basically got to see them at CBGB's.
Did it seem just like a natural kind of progression for you to go from this band Dust into the Ramones? I mean,
well, a lot of people thought I regressed, just playing like Ringo Starr. That's really basically what I applied to the Ramones when I was 8 years old and the Ed Sullivan Show was on and the Beatles were on. I wanted to be Ringo, so hi-hat method was the same thing, and it was just faster. Joining the Ramones, and that's basically what it was, just that whole idea. But with Dust, you're talking 5/4 time signatures. You're talking about different accents and the stops and the we were 16 years old, going on 16. We were in I think the 10th, going on to the 10th grade, and we couldn't play anywhere unless our parents came because they were serving alcohol. And, that's why we broke up, because we were just too young, and at that point, we couldn't really tour because our parents wanted us to get a diploma. So we had to finish high school and all that stuff, and, but at least Dust put out 2 albums, and we were one of the first, I guess you could say, heavy metal bands in America,
Were you listening to I mean, kind of that, that heavier stuff coming from England? I mean, were you listening to, Zepp or The Who, or listening to Bonham, or, Purple?
When I was a little boy, I loved Keith Moon, but I was really into jazz.
Really?
I liked Dave Brubeck, Take 5, that album. I liked Third Stone from the Sun by Jimi Hendrix, Mitch Mitchell. He was one of the greatest. And, stuff that Cream would do, Ginger Baker and all that stuff, and Joe Morello. Well, he was in the Dave Brubeck's band.
Yeah.
Buddy Rich, people like that. I could hold my sticks jazz style and regular style. So I really was always impressed by the jazz drummer. Why? Because they used their wrists, they used their fingers. They didn't have to use their whole arm and like a lot of drummers do, which is fine. That's their style. But I just use my wrists and fingers.
Interesting. I mean, your first record with the Ramones, Road to Ruin. I mean, in my mind, I mean, it was still Ramones, obviously, but it was a real kind of a, I mean, it was a pretty significant step forward, I thought.
Yeah, it was. Some call it the Sergeant Pepper of the Ramones. But I think that what was good about that album compared to the other three, which were great also, it just seemed it matured into what it became. And to me, you know, adding a few guitar fills on that album and drum fills that I did when necessary, because at the time there was a lot of bands that were out that were really showing their chops, and I wanted to show Ramones fans that I could throw in a few fills that were tasty enough for the song.
Interesting. And what did the other guys think about that?
Oh, well, they loved it. I mean, they always liked my playing, especially in Dust. And then Dee Dee would come up to me and go, "Come on, throw in some fills," you know. And I go, "Okay, you got it," you know. So I didn't want to ruin the song. Mm-hmm. A lot of drummers, they will put in drum fills that don't belong in there, and you know, it kind of occupies the song too much.
Absolutely.
I throw in a fill if it's the right place, the right time. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be a regular roll, a single stroke roll, or you know, just an offbeat thing, but something that won't interfere with the singing or the flow of the rhythm of the song itself.
Interesting. Mark, I mean, what were those very first sessions like with them, you know, being in the studio and playing with Dee Dee finally? And, I mean, were they kind of seamless? Did you kind of really understand it? Did it take a little bit kind of understanding what they were doing, you know, after the Dust thing? I mean,
we did a lot of rehearsing.
You did?
Me and the other Ramones. But the thing was, go in, it only took me 2 days to do Road to Ruin. All the drum tracks.
Is that right?
Yeah, and usually took 2.5 weeks to make a whole Ramones album. The longest one that took a lot of time was the Phil Spector End of the Century album, because we worked slow and we worked fast, so it was a whole different ball game. And at that point, we weren't telling producers what to do. So when Phil came on board, he was telling us what to do. But when I walked into the studio to do Road to Ruin, we already rehearsed for weeks, because I just joined the group, and I had to know 15 songs and the whole Ramones set in 2.5 weeks.
That's
so
amazing.
You're talking about close to 50 songs.
That's unbelievable. I mean, were those tracks, I mean, were the Ramones a live band? I mean, was I Want to Be Sedated kind of everybody in there just doing his thing and then going back and maybe cleaning up a bass part, or, you know?
No, what happened was we would do the album, and I would always make sure that the drum track was tight, that there was no fluctuations. And then they would come in and overdub their parts properly, because when you're doing a track, you need something to play along with. So I needed something. I needed either John or Dee Dee, all of them, to make believe they were doing a track, but they really didn't have to exert themselves, just as long as they had something to follow.
Gotcha. Interesting. And where did Needles and Pins come from? I mean, that seemed like a strange kind of a choice. I mean, it was great, but you know, acoustic guitar. I mean, was that your influence, or that your, you know?
Well, Ed Stasium played guitar on the whole album. He played lead guitar, and you know, I'm not saying Johnny wasn't great for what he did, but he couldn't play lead guitar. So Ed Stasium, you know, he played the acoustic on there and everything. So he was responsible for that, and it worked out well. And because he was an experienced technical guitar player. So those little things you hear on Road to Ruin is Ed Stasium playing guitar.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows that, but I mean, it's cool to talk about at this point. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing to hide.
Oh, cool. Absolutely. End of the Century. I mean, I know you've told the Phil Spector stories, and I was actually watching some of your interviews online and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, Marky, if you look back at that album, I mean, what are your overriding memories of that record?
End of the century?
Yes.
Great songs. When it came out, we were a little confused about the production, but then we got used to it and we understood it. But I feel that it was more of an experiment, colliding the two walls of sound and, making it what it was. It was basically the Ramones meet Phil Spector. And it was our largest selling single album.
That's amazing.
And it took months to make that album. Obviously, because there's a lot of added instrumentation on it, and we worked very quick. That's why John and Phil didn't get along. They disagreed on the work ethic. Phil had to work slow, and John always wanted to work fast. But you don't argue with Phil. You know what I mean?
I gotcha. Chinese Rock was a song Dee Dee wrote with Richard Hell, who you previously played with. I mean, did you? Yeah. I mean, was Richard sort of hanging around a little bit? I mean, were you kind of reacquainting yourself again, or was it kind of a?
Well, at that point, I left Richard Hell's band after we toured with the Clash in England for 5 weeks. He didn't want to tour anymore. I mean, some people love it, some people can't deal with it. That's why Tommy left the group too. But I didn't see him at that point. I mean, it was basically a Dee Dee song.
I see.
And they insert a few lines here and there, but Richard Hell, he never recorded it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, Johnny Thunders did with the Heartbreakers, and I like that version better than the Ramones version. I'm not going to bullshit just because I'm in the band.
I appreciate your honesty, Marky. I mean, Marky, that touring with the Clash, I mean, that must have been pretty cool. I mean, I'm assuming you were a Clash fan.
I liked some of their songs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, they definitely took a lot from the Ramones because there wasn't a punk scene happening at the time when the punk scene started in America. But the 1, 2, 3, 4 counts in the beginning and the fast playing and all that—that's all Ramone stuff. With the leather jackets with the pins on it. And I gave Joe Strummer his first U.S. Keds, his Ked sneakers.
That's great.
And where me and Dee Dee always wore Keds. We weren't into Converse. We were into Keds. So, if we couldn't find pro Keds, we'd buy the Converse because that was our second choice.
That's so great. I mean, Marky, I mean, this may be a strange question. I mean, can you remember, or I mean, was there a point when you first heard the word, the term punk, or was it something that just kind of gradually evolved? I mean.
Well, I was raised in Brooklyn, New York, and it's the toughest area in the world. People would go around calling each other punks, hitters, greasers. I was a little too young for that era, but the term punk is like was an everyday thing.
Yeah.
And the way where I was raised around Flatbush Avenue, and I went to Erasmus High School. It was every day there was something, one kind of this fight or whatever, and I grew up like that with the leather jackets and the jeans. I mean, you're not going to wear anything else because you might be looking for someone to instigate a fight with you. So but that's really what it was. The term punk, it was around for years.
Yeah.
But it's just that even Dust, we were called punk, but we weren't. We were heavy metal, hard rock band.
Oh, absolutely.
But the term was around already, and a lot of people claim that they started the term punk, but it just morphed into what it is.